Chick-fil-A when I was getting me some food. We made a dance for him. Now the best way this dance can work, if a nigga shoot your dumb ass like 4 or 5 times before you fall. But if you don't got nobody to do that for you, just lay down smooth like this, right? Lay your bitch ass down and point them toes up, right? You spread a little bit, cause the nigga done spanked you. Then you just jump a little bit.
Hey y'all, today I'm gonna talk about Mr. Dogface. What possessed your ugly ball sack looking ass to get on this internet and put my name in your mouth yesterday?
The federal government is not playing around when it comes to the rap community in 2026. A few weeks back, we covered a story of a Detroit rapper who claimed he defended himself. And at least based on what was made available to the public at the time, that framing made sense. When the story first broke, the internet had already made up its mind. A Detroit rapper survives an attempted robbery. Shots ring out. And within hours, social media had delivered its verdict. Self-defense, no question. He had no choice. It was him or them. And honestly, looking at it on the surface, that's a reasonable first reaction. A man gets robbed, he fights back, and people naturally rally behind survival. But according to federal authorities, one single action changed the entire legal picture. One detail buried in the investigator's account potentially dismantles the self-defense argument completely. Not because he defended himself in the moment, but because of what happened after the immediate threat was gone. Authorities say surviving the robbery was never the issue. The issue was the decision that followed, and that's what we'll get into as this video unfolds. According to the federal criminal complaint, once the initial danger had passed, the person who began as the victim allegedly pursued the men involved. Then, after serious injuries had already been inflicted, he allegedly stood over one of them. That one decision, made after the threat was neutralized, may be what transforms this from a clear-cut self-defense case into a federal criminal matter. And that's the detail social media never really got around to discussing. Because inside these documents, which we break down further in this video, the full picture of the injuries involved also comes to light. He may not be facing a murder charge or an attempted murder charge, at least not at this point. But the paperwork tells a different story about just how serious the injuries were to the individuals police say attempted to rob him. One of the alleged victims reportedly begged for his life. Another gave a detailed account of exactly what took place, and authorities are now using those statements to construct a version of events that looks nothing like what the internet initially believed.
This wasn't a quick exchange of gunfire and a walk away. We may not have the full indictment in hand, but we do have the federal complaint. And according to what the feds have laid out, this situation escalated into a chase, and the injuries that followed were severe enough that federal agents stepped in weeks later and arrested the suspect while he was on his way to an interview in California. Now, as we mentioned, murder charges are not on the table right now. But here's the reality. When you're already a convicted felon and firearms into the equation, the federal government doesn't need a perfect case. They just need enough. And in this situation, they appear to have found it. In this video, we're going through the criminal complaint, the witness statements, the documented injuries, a hospital visit connected to the suspect, and the 2017 felony conviction that legally prohibited him from carrying or even being in contact with a firearm. That prior conviction is ultimately what opened the door to this federal arrest. Before we get into it, I want to be clear. I'm not here to push an agenda or take sides. I just bring you the story as it's documented. With that said, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get right into it. When it comes to today's sponsor, a jury recently ordered Meta and YouTube to answer for their role in designing platforms built around addiction. Evidence showed these companies were aware their apps could contribute to anxiety, depression, and serious body image issues in young users, yet they chose not to disclose those risks while continuing to prioritize profit. That historic verdict is now forcing a reckoning. If you or your child spent years on social media and experienced significant mental health struggles as a result, this matters to you. Morgan & Morgan are taking on these platforms directly, fighting to hold them accountable for the harm their decisions caused.
Over the last 2 to 3 weeks, a lot of attention has been locked in on Detroit, or more specifically, Michigan. The Inkster rapper known as All-Star Jr., whose real name is Jeremy Christopher Ford, has been at the center of it all. As we've covered before, most of you already know he shot 2 individuals who were allegedly there to rob him, and this incident took place in the presence of Jay Prince, a man who, to this day, continues to communicate with All-Star Jr.'s child's mother. Since then, Jay Prince has posted a photo of himself holding his son alongside her. All-Star Jr. has also been firing back on social media through subliminal posts, and even released a track called Mob Until, which appears to be aimed directly at Jr. Now, we touched on this before, but All-Star Jr.'s criminal history goes back well over a decade. In 2015, he and T. Grizzly were both connected to a series of home invasions at Michigan State University dormitories. Jeremy Christopher Ford, 25 years old at the time, pleaded guilty to home invasion charges in Ingham County Circuit Court and was sentenced to 1.5 to 15 years in prison. The time he wasn't behind bars, he was on probation. T. Grizzly, whose real name is Terry Wallace, was also a student at MSU when those incidents occurred. Investigators linked the two to roughly a dozen separate incidents over a 15-day stretch in February of 2014 at Hubbard Hall. In each case, someone entered an unlocked dorm room during the early morning hours and walked out with laptops, cell phones, cameras, and cash. When Ford was taken into custody following warrants issued in the summer of 2014, police recovered nearly $10,000 in stolen merchandise and an additional $10,000 in cash on him.
Around that same time, T. Grizzly and 2 other Detroit men were arrested in connection with an attempted robbery at a pawn shop and jewelry store in Lexington, Kentucky. The suspects were carrying hammers and were held at gunpoint by the store's owner until law enforcement arrived. When T. Grizzly eventually came home, he dropped a project on his first day out and made a point to shout out Jr. in the process. Regardless, from that point forward, All-Star Jr. was a convicted felon. Now, fast forward nearly a decade. In the 3rd week of April 2026, the Inkster rapper found himself at the center of a new incident, this time inside a Houston restaurant. He is now facing federal gun charges after investigators say the entire event was captured on surveillance footage and followed by taunting posts across social media. According to the federal criminal complaint, Jeremy Christopher Ford, also known as All-Star Jr., has been charged with being a felon in possession of a firearm. Investigators say the shooting took place at approximately 11:23 p.m. on April 8, 2026, at a restaurant located on Kirby Drive in Houston. When officers arrived on the scene, they found one person inside with a gunshot wound to the neck and another in the parking garage suffering from multiple gunshot wounds to the hand and leg. Both individuals were transported to the hospital. We've since confirmed the identities of those involved, as well as the full extent of the injuries. Police say a trail of blood ran from the dining area, through the elevator, and into the parking garage. At the scene, officers recovered a Glock 43 handgun, a magazine, a holster, and multiple spent shell casings along with bullet fragments. According to investigators, surveillance footage shows Ford inside a restaurant before a group approached him, ultimately leading to a confrontation. Authorities say several people in the group grabbed his necklace and watch, which is what escalated the situation. So let's put this in context. By all accounts, he was there first, sitting down, eating with no apparent conflict. At some point, someone had clearly passed along his location. During the struggle, a handgun fell to the floor. Investigators say Ford picked it up and opened fire as people scattered. One man went down after being shot. Others rushed toward the elevator, trying to get out. But according to authorities, Ford kept shooting, firing additional rounds in the direction of someone who was already running away. The complaint then alleges that Ford walked back over to the injured man, who was already on the ground, and fired more rounds at him at close range. Investigators say he then pointed the gun again, but the weapon appeared to be empty at that point. Court documents further allege that he struck the man with a handgun and spit on him before leaving the scene, something he later confirmed himself through a social media post, which we'll get to in a moment. Authorities also say a third individual, believed to be a bystander, was struck by gunfire but sustained non-life-threatening injuries. When it comes to the severity of the injuries, hospital officials told investigators that one victim had a finger amputated as a result of the gunshot wound and suffered serious damage to his leg. As for the other victim, as of April 15th, he had no feeling in his legs, which confirms what many had already suspected. Ben 10 is paralyzed from the waist down. Investigators say Ford left the scene in a white Cadillac Escalade before officers arrived. The affidavit also states that following the shooting, Ford posted multiple videos to social media that appeared to taunt those involved. Investigators further noted that he released a music video referencing the incident, complete with lyrics about what happened and what authorities describe as a visual reenactment of the shooting. The federal government is not showing any leniency here.
Officials confirm that Ford has a prior felony conviction out of Michigan, which makes it a federal crime for him to possess a firearm. Worth noting, though, authorities did not specifically state that the weapon belonged to him. All-Star Jr. was arrested in California while en route to a Vlad TV interview. But before that arrest, just 48 hours prior, he had posted a series of direct messages between himself and Ben 10. In the exchange, Ford wrote, "I'm not trying to talk. Send me that challenge," a reference to what became known as the Ben 10 challenge. Ben responded, asking if he was serious. Ford replied, "You're lying in the hospital, full of bullets." Ben shot back, saying he wasn't feeling any bullets. Ford responded, "Well, you've been in the hospital 100 days." Ben replied. Then Ford wrote, "Wipe that spit off your face. Everybody left you to die." When he posted those messages publicly, he added, "What's crazy is I didn't even tell y'all I spit on him after he got dropped. You got a neck brace. I'm not doing your interview. It's over." Since the story broke, Ben 10 posted a photo from his hospital bed with OG3 and others by his side. He appeared to be in decent spirits, though he has not left that hospital bed. The focus right now seems to be on his recovery. As things stand, Ben 10 is reportedly paralyzed from the waist down, and another man will spend the rest of his life with 9 fingers. That's the reality of what unfolded that night. Now, it's important to be clear about where things stand legally. All-Star Jr. has been arrested, but the current federal charge is solely for being a felon in possession of a firearm. No murder charge, no attempted murder charge at the federal level, at least not yet. But consider what the complaint describes: coming back, standing over someone already on the ground, pulling the trigger on an empty chamber. That empty magazine may have been the only thing that changed the outcome of that night. There's likely more to come as this case develops.